Hello everyone, GoldenNova here, and you're tuning in to part 2 of the 2022 release roundup, where I cover all the cards from archetypes I've already covered this year. If you've somehow stumbled onto this video before seeing part 1, then don't worry, you don't have to see the first one to understand anything found here. But if there's something you were looking forward to that isn't here, it's probably over there, so once you're done, make sure to give it a watch. And like the last video, if any of these cards pique your interest, but you don't know anything about the archetype they're from, I've got a playlist up at the right here for you with everything I've covered in today's episode. Okay, preamble finished, let's continue with number 15, Magikey. I'm not sure if Magikey or Suship are my favorite normal monster theme, but thankfully they play so well with each other that I often don't have to pick. And that's going to carry over to today because I get to talk about both of them in this video. We're going to start off with Magikey Avatar Astartu, a rank 8 Light Fairy Xyz monster with 3000 attack and defense, requiring any 2 level 8 monsters as material. Once per turn, when your normal monster or Magikey monster destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can detach a material from this card to inflict damage to your opponent equal to the destroyed monster's original attack. Also once per turn, during your opponent's main phase as a quick effect, you can target a monster your opponent controls with the same attribute as a normal monster or Magikey monster you control or is in your grave, detach a material from this card, and if you do, banish the targeted monster. So you get quick effect removal, though with a surprisingly restrictive window of activation, that can also do some Flame Wingman style burn damage, though they both draw from the same pool of Xyz material, so you're gonna have to choose wisely. Another frustrating aspect is this card's rank. Every other boss monster we use works with us because they're pretty easy to put together by using 2 level 4s. But the only level 8s that we have are our big bosses, so we either have to use those or flex into some normal level 8 monsters, but that's just asking for bricked hands. Even more so considering we're a deck full of vanillas, so we already run the risk of Magikey being locked out of the game. Number 16, Melffy. Wow, did this theme get a huge update in Power of the Elements, and I'm certainly not complaining. More Melffys means more adorable monsters and better beast support. Just don't let the sprites see these. First off is Melffy Wally. They have 0 attack and 400 defense, and have all the usual Melffy qualities. Wally's twist, though, is that when your opponent normal summons, special summons, or targets Wally for an attack, except during the damage step, you can return this card to the hand, then you can special summon 2 Melffys from your deck with different names from each other, except a copy of itself. Now, Puppy is technically more versatile, summoning any level 2 or lower beast from your deck except itself, but Wally can effectively toolbox out any Melffy you need for whatever the situation demands. Get Pony to recycle your graveyard monsters, Fenny to summon any beast in hand, or Caddy to search any beast. Wally is an amazing pal for not only giving the deck more flexibility, but board presence as well. They're absolutely perfect for when you just want to chill out with your buddies and play a bit of pouch co-op. Melffy Penny is well, usually the Melffys are Earth, but Penny is Water attribute, and is a tuner to boot. They have 300 attack and 100 defense, and perhaps as a sign of things to come, works nothing like the Melffys we know and love. If a face-up beast monster you control was returned to the hand during this turn, except a copy of itself, then as a quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand, then immediately after this effect resolves, you can synchro summon a synchro monster using only this card you control and Melffy monsters in your hand. And during your end phase, if this card is in the grave, you can target a beast Xyz monster you control and attach this card to it as material. Goodness gracious, where do I begin? So it sounds a lot like Hoppier Squadron, another neat card you can tech into this deck, but Penny doesn't actually care about your field presence. You just use all the Melffys that jumped back into your hand. This gives you access to even leveled synchros since all the Melffys are level 2, but going to the higher number ones will get very expensive because of how low their levels are. Still, being able to drop a synchro on your opponent's turn after any point you've triggered your Melffy's hide and seek effects is downright dangerous, and the right one at the right time can really seal the deal. Now, the weirdest thing about Penny is that it's a tuner in an Xyz-centric deck, and surprise surprise, this just means we've pivoted over to having a little synchro splash. Merry Melffys is a level 4 Earth Beast synchro monster with 1500 attack and 1000 defense, requiring generic material. If this card is special summoned, you can target a face-up monster on the field and return it to the hand. And if your opponent normal or special summons any number of monsters, or if an opponent targets this card for an attack, you can return this card to the extra deck, then you can special summon a Melffy Xyz monster from your extra deck. Now, an Xyz monster with no material sounds pretty underwhelming, but remember, during the end phase, Penny can get tucked under them as material to use their effects, and they just have better stats than Mary does. On top of that, in the case of Forest, it has an effect that can trigger without material for that time between when you actually get Penny back as material. As for the first part of Mary's effect, it's basically more removal, and since it triggers off of being synchro summoned, it's basically an extension of either Penny or Hopyard Squadron's effect, making them the hand-trapped versions of compulsory evacuation devices. So if you ever play the deck, you're guaranteed to have yourself a merry little Melffy. Melffy Staring Contest is a continuous spell card, and while on the field, you can reveal a beast monster in your hand to add a Melffy monster with a different name from your deck or grave to your hand, and place the revealed monster on the bottom of the deck. And at the start of your opponent's battle phase, you can reveal any number of Melffy monsters in your hand, and keep them revealed during this battle phase only. And monsters your opponent controls lose attack equal to the combined attack and defense of the monsters revealed this way. Now, as it turns out, that's actually pretty easy to keep track of, because the combined totals of all of our main deck Melffy battle stats are 400, except for the normal monster Rabby, who's sporting 2100, so all by itself it can ruin most monster lineups, while giving you more reasons to play Rabby. The filtering effect is also quite nice. We have Melffys that can search out the others, so trading in the less immediately useful ones for whichever one you need is amazing. It also allows you to reveal beast monsters, not just Melffys, so if we've opened up too many rescue monsters, you can trade them away for a member of the theme proper. I would say this is the best piece of support Melffys have gotten in a while, but considering all the cool cards we recently got, that take might be a bit contested. Number 17, Neos, and a little bit of Hero. Make Hero Explained, I said. They're basically done updating the theme, I said. Fool. Absolutely heinous behavior. Now I'm cursed to forever update my longest video until the end of time because GX heads will never be satisfied. Though, strangely enough, we're actually very focused this time around, as Neos and their Spacians were the subject of this year's updates overall. So we're going to start with Cross Keeper, a level 2 Dark Warrior monster with 400 attack and defense, and you can send this card from your hand or field to the grave to special summon an Elemental Hero monster or Neo-Spacian monster from your hand or grave. But its effects are negated if you summoned it from the grave. And if you special summon an Elemental Hero Fusion monster while this card is in your grave, except during the damage step, you can banish this card to draw 2 cards, then place a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. So you can use Keeper as a form of extension in basically any hero deck, but has more targets in a Neo-specific deck. But the best part is the card filtering. It turns out that when you play a deck that revolves around a level 7 vanilla monster, sometimes you draw some bricks. So Cross Keeper lets you dig deeper into your deck while putting any garnets back, keeping you in the game. Elemental Hero Spirit of Neos is a level 7 Light Warrior monster with 2500 attack and 2000 defense, and when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can special summon this card from your hand in defense position, and if you do, it can't be destroyed by battle. If this card is special summoned, you can add a spell or trap card that mentions an Elemental Hero monster's name or a polymerization from your deck to your hand. And during your main phase, you can shuffle this card into the deck, and if you do, special summon an Elemental Hero normal monster from your deck. Which is probably going to be Neos, but more power to you if you go for something like Avion. This is just another really solid inclusion that can help block attacks, search you cards, and tags out into probably the most important monster in a Neos deck, Neos. A point of order though, the wording on the search is very specific. You're not able to search something like E-Emergency Call because it doesn't list a specific elemental hero. It's meant to grab you cards like Contact Gate or Neos Fusion, but you can also grab something silly like Spark Blaster. But the most impressive thing? It's a Neos that shuffles back into the deck and replaces itself with a new card! What a wild concept! Armed Neos is a level 10 Wind Warrior Fusion monster with 3500 attack and 3000 defense, requiring Elemental Hero Neos and an Armed Dragon monster as material. It must be fusion summoned, and if this card is special summoned, you can choose a dragon monster in your grave and destroy all monsters your opponent controls with an equal or lower level. Not very effective against Xyz or Link monsters, but it's something. and if this card destroys a monster by battle, it gains this effect. As a quick effect, during any main phase, you contribute this card to special summon an elemental hero fusion monster from your extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. So, I guess this also counts as an update to Armed Dragon Explained, huh? Though this is mostly just a Neos card that gives you a weird board wipe option, because running Neos Fusion in a dedicated Armed Dragon deck feels like a bad idea. But it is neat, I'll give it that, especially for anyone who wants to finally put together that Chaz Jaden deck they've always dreamed of. But I don't have very high hopes. And to be fair, this is already better than Grand Merge, so that's already an improvement. Elemental Hero Shining Neos Wingman is a level 8 Light Warrior fusion monster with 3100 attack and 2500 defense, requiring Elemental Hero Neos and a Wingman fusion monster as material. So you have your pick of either Flame, Shining Flare, or, oddly enough, Wild. They must be fusion summoned, and if this card is special summoned, you can destroy cards your opponent controls up to the number of different attributes on the field. It gains 300 attack for each monster in your grave, not just heroes, can't be destroyed by card effects, and if this card destroys a monster by battle, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the destroyed monster's original attack. Now there's that classic Wingman effect. The removal is pretty cool too. While powerful, our options for removal are pretty limited, so having a way to do more of it is great for picking off annoying cards. And if that wasn't enough for you, it can gain a boatload of attack and can't be destroyed by card effects. If you're ever able to cheat this into play, then you'll have a stupendous monster at your side that can cover all your bases. You know, because of how big Wingman's wingspan is. Wake Up Your Elemental Hero is a level 10 Light Warrior fusion monster with 2500 attack and 2100 defense, requiring an Elemental Hero fusion monster and one or more warrior monsters as material, and must be fusion summoned. It gains 300 attack for each fusion material used for its summon, and this card can make a number of attacks on monsters each battle phase, up to the number of fusion monsters used as fusion material. If this card battles a monster, after damage calculation, destroy that monster, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to its original attack. And if this fusion summoned card is destroyed, special summon a warrior monster from your hand or deck. Now, there's a lot of ways you can make this, though Sunriser is a highly useful starter, as it both searches Miracle Fusion, helping to mitigate the cost of said summon, as well as being an Elemental Hero fusion monster for that first requirement. Load your grave up with fusions, then you can make Wake Up an absolute menace on the battlefield, wiping out multiple monsters, dealing burn damage, and even getting a replacement warrior if that gets blasted. Now, you might be dreaming if you think this can be competitively viable, but honestly, I wouldn't want to Wake Up either. E.N. Engage Neospace is a normal spell card that sends a Neospatian monster and an Elemental Hero monster to the grave, one from your hand and one from your deck, to special summon a Neospatian monster or a level 5 or higher Elemental Hero monster from your deck. And if you summon Neos, you give it an extra 1000 attack points. And if you do, add a Polymerization from your deck or grave to your hand. But you're not able to special summon any monsters from the extra deck the turn you activate this card, except fusion monsters. This checks before and after, so basically, make sure you're playing like you're under branded fusion. Now, I know what you're thinking. Finally, an easy way to summon Elemental Hero Blade Edge! And despite that value, you might want to consider just summoning Spirit of Neos. It can still get you the vanilla Neos eventually, but it also gives you a search too. Though if you're trying to close out the game, then yeah, going right for that plus 1000 Neos ain't a bad option. And despite all that, it still manages to be the most balanced engaged normal spell card in the game, so that's something. E.N. Shuffle is a normal spell card that shuffles an Elemental Hero or a Neospatian monster you control into the deck. And if you do, special summon an Elemental Hero or Neospatian monster with a different name from your deck. You can also banish this card from your grave to shuffle both an Elemental Hero and a Neospatian monster, or just an Elemental Hero Neos from your grave into your deck, then draw a card. This card is fine, I suppose. It certainly combos well with Engage Neospace since it basically sets up the card draw, and it summons an on-theme card to boot. This gives you quick access to Dolphin to deal with some hand traps, but if this doesn't get adopted into hero lists, I'm gonna lose my mind. It basically turns any of your heroes into Shadow Mist or Stratos, which in turn becomes every other hero. Also, I just like that this card is called E.N. Shuffle and it shuffles the deck a lot, that's pretty cute. Instant Contact is a normal spell card that has you paying 1,000 life points to special summon a level 7 or lower elemental hero or Neospatian monster from your extra deck, ignoring summoning conditions. But if you don't have elemental hero Neos in your grave or on your field, the summoned monster can't attack, its effects are negated, and it's returned to the extra deck during the end phase. Now, I'm sure there's a ton of E-Hero monsters you can abuse with this effect, but my favorite one at the moment is that it does just summon a Wingman fusion monster onto your board to help make Shining Neos Wingman. But you know, there's a little problem with this. See, they already printed this card. Okay, not exactly word for word, but it's pretty similar. Here, it also has you paying 1,000 life points, it also summons particular fusions out of the extra deck, and it also has instant in the name, and that card is limited because it finds itself into so many decks. If Instant Contact had come baked in with some meaningful restrictions on it, it'd be fine, but they basically just reprinted Instant Fusion, but arguably better, because now Kashtira can use it for rank 7 plays. Enjoy this while you can, Neos lovers, because this card is gonna get ruined eventually. Well, more than it already has. Seriously, where is Air Neos, Konami? We want answers! Battle of Sleeping Spirits is a quick play spell card that allows each player to special summon a monster from their grave that was destroyed by battle this turn in attack position. And if you special summoned elemental hero Neos, if it battles an opponent's monster this turn, its attack becomes doubled during the damage step only. So the idea is that you crash Neos into something, activate battle, get Neos back, and it comes back strong enough to kick the butt of whatever destroyed it. And as long as you don't destroy your opponent's monster in battle, you can avoid the downside of your opponent getting a monster. I also can't overlook that this card can be used defensively, though I feel like it's a lot less useful in that regard. Either way, great anime reference, glad to see Ultimate Tyranno back in their element. I was worried for him after Ultimate Conductor Tyranno basically took over their position. Overfusion is a quick play spell card that targets a face-up monster on the field. You reveal an elemental hero monster, Neospatian monster, or level 10 monster from your hand, deck, or extra deck, and if the targeted monster is used as fusion material this turn, its name can be treated as the revealed monster's name. And if you have elemental hero Neos on your field and or your grave, send the revealed card to the grave. Otherwise, if the revealed card is in your hand, shuffle it into the deck. So it's a fusion tag with a very wide reach that can also act as some kind of foolish burial, great for allowing you to just use the fusion material right out of your grave. As the picture implies, this can help with getting the Rainbow Dragon name into play to help with Rainbow Neo summons, something that's a lot less consistent now that Verte Anaconda is gone, but is also incredibly useful as a way to get specific Neospatians both on field for contact fusion and in the grave for sundry other effects. The full ramifications of this will get more and more dubious as more and more people experiment with it, especially since any level 10 monster is now up for grabs. I'm looking at you, Eldritch! I wouldn't be surprised if this reached a point of oversaturation sometime soon. EN Wave is a continuous spell card, and while on the field, if any of your elemental hero monsters are used as material for a fusion summon and sent to the grave or banished, except during the damage step, you can special summon a Neospatian monster or elemental hero Neos from your deck. And if any number of Neospatian monsters and or elemental hero Neos are shuffled from your field and or grave into your deck and or extra deck, except during the damage step, you can special summon an elemental hero monster from your grave. This is one of those continuous spells that helps you buy back card advantage for doing certain kinds of summons. It's hard to recommend because they usually take a while to pay off, but I'm pretty keen on this one. You get a free Neos or Neospatian when you use E-Heroes as fusion material, and if you contact fuse, you buy back an elemental hero. Though in this case it's probably going to be Neos. Teching in the broader hero support doesn't seem very likely for a pure Neos deck. Still, getting back your key cards lets you extend your plays even further, and who knows, maybe this card can one day make some waves. Favorite Contact is a normal trap card that special summons a fusion monster from your extra deck that lists a hero monster as material by placing the materials listed on it on the bottom of your deck in any order from among cards in your hand, on your field, in your grave, and or face-up banished cards, ignoring summoning conditions. And if you placed elemental hero Neos, the summoned monster can't be returned to the extra deck. That means all those contact fusion monsters, they get to stay, Neospace or no. Now, the monster you want to fusion summon does have to list a hero monster specifically, so you're not able to summon something like the Omni Heroes, but cards like Destiny Endragoon or Neos Kluger are fair game. though the real big draws are going to be the ones that list Neos specifically. And because there's no limit to the amount of material you can use, this can be used to easily summon some of your most powerful contact fusions. Nebula Neos is a huge potential hand refill that does a bit of negating, and if you want to be the most unfun person, flip favorite contact on your opponent's draw phase to make Cosmo Neos, pulling an Azathoth and locking your opponent out of card interactions for their entire turn. Sure, you don't get the admittedly powerful effects that happen when they get shuffled back into the deck, but their on-summon effect is already pretty powerful, and now you get to keep those big monsters to help you push for game the following turn. Yeah, that does it. This is easily my favorite Neos card. Protection of the Elements is a counter trap card that can be activated in response to a spell or trap card activation. You banish a face-up elemental hero monster you control until the end phase to negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. And if you control elemental hero Terra Firma, you can banish this card from your grave to special summon any of your elemental hero monsters that are banished or in your hand or grave, ignoring summoning conditions. Wow, actual negation! In heroes! Or rather, in elemental heroes. And it only works on spells and traps, but because it lists Terra Firma, it's actually searchable by Spirit of Neos, which is kinda cool. You're probably never going to activate the Engrave effect, unless teching in Terra Firma somehow comes back in vogue, but as a way to stop big Haymaker cards like Raigeki, Harpy's Feather Duster, Imperm, you name it, I can think of worse. And the fact that it works so well with Spirit of Neos is why I'm putting it in this section, instead of making a whole new hero category. Definitely wasn't because I totally skipped over it while making the big list of new releases and didn't catch it in time for the second video. Anyway, moving on. Number 18, Ninjas. Probably one of the archetypes I'm most fascinated with, Ninjas got a swath of new monsters to work with to help enable their sneaky style. And now we have a few more to work with to accomplish that. First off is Yugioh the Stacked Ninja, a level 8 Earth Rock monster with 2300 attack and 2900 defense. If this card is normal summoned, special summoned, or flipped face up, you can target up to 2 face up monsters on the field and change them to face down defense position. And opponent's monsters changed to face down defense position by this effect can't change their battle position. And if any number of other monsters on the field are flipped face up while this card is face up on the field, except during the damage step, you can target a card your opponent controls and destroy it. So Yugioh is a combination of Enabler, since flipping cards around is a big part of the ninja strategy, and Floodgate Trap Hole, as the battle position lock only applies to your opponent's monsters. And while it's a hard once per turn, getting a free pop on top of a flip, except those done during the damage step of course, is super swell. And with all the new tools we've gotten between cards like Dancing Leaves, Notebook of Mystery, and Kagero, not to mention Getsuga being a great tribute summon that just gets this online every turn, getting Yugioh into play is a breeze, so you can rest assured they won't be weighing you down. Yaguramaru, the Armored Ninja, is a level 5 Dark Machine Fusion monster with 2000 attack and defense, requiring any 2 ninja monsters with different types, and must either be fusion summoned or special summoned from your extra deck by tributing the above cards you control. If this card is special summoned or flipped face up, you can banish one other ninja or ninjutsu art card from your hand, grave, or face up field, then target a card on the field and banish it. This is a supremely powerful card, no doubt about it. The summoning requirements are easy to meet, especially with our new ninjas, and we also have the option to summon it via instant fusion, because that does count as a fusion summon. See what I mean when I say this crops up everywhere? The removal is pretty strong too, as it hits any card, and by banishing a card from your grave, it's basically free, and sets up a few of our other on-theme options, namely Iron Digger. And since no other machine ninjas exist outside of Karakuri's, it's also incredible material for Mazen, which can itself revive Yaguramaru to trigger their effect again. It's sad that they don't take this on very many missions though. Yaguramaru is very strong, but it's hard to be stealthy when you have rocket legs, and rocket arms, and rocket everything. A World Shrouded in Darkness is a field spell card that's always treated as a ninjutsu art card, which gives it plenty of synergy with a lot of our cards. When your ninja monster inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can target a card on the field and destroy it. And if this face-up card in its owner's field zone leaves the field by an opponent's card effect and is sent to the grave or is banished, you can target any number of ninja monsters with different names in your grave and special summon them in face-down defense position. The best thing here is the lack of any once per turn restrictions. If you deal battle damage with 3 ninjas, you get to pop 3 cards, and you'll be able to do this a lot with Mazen's effect to allow your ninjas to attack directly. And if your opponent wants to stop that, then they're gonna have to deal with the swath of reinforcements you summon, even if your opponent uses a card like Cosmic Cyclone. I love this card, but I'm still a little hesitant to use it. I'm getting real Sekiro vibes here, but like bad end Sekiro vibes. Number 19, Plunder Patroll. Earth Ship, Earth Ship, Earth Ship, Earth Ship! Here's hoping I'm doing one of these next year for the Wind Ship, but for now, let's get a head start with Plunder Patrol Ship Yord, a level 8 Earth Fiend Pendulum Synchro monster that's new, with 1500 attack and 3000 defense, requiring generic material. Starting with the monster effect, if your opponent special summons any number of monsters, except during the damage step, you can add a Plunder Patrol card from your deck to your hand. Then, if this card is equipped with a Plunder Patrol card, you can special summon a Plunder Patrol monster from your deck. It can also target a Plunder Patrol card in your grave and add it to your hand, and if you do, place this card in your Pendulum zone. And as a Pendulum spell, you can declare an attribute to return this card to the extra deck, and if you do, special summon a Plunder Patrol token, which is a level 4 fiend with 0 attack and defense, that has the attribute you chose, to both players' side of the field in defense position. Oh man, where do I begin with this? Okay, Bran is cool, but is only good when you need to deal with back row or are going for game. Yord, on the other hand, is preferable in basically every other scenario. It punishes your opponent for special summoning by getting you a search and potentially a summon, which could lead to more ships if that summon is either Redbeard or Whitebeard. It can recycle needed plunder cards from your grave, and gives both players tokens, which not only means you have more material to make your Plunder Patrol ships, but also forces an attribute onto your opponent's field to help you make whatever ship you want. I wouldn't say this replaces Booty. After all, that's a revive on top of attribute fixing, as well as being a discardable card, but it does add redundancy, something we desperately need. This card is beyond nutty, and honestly, it's about time we got a beach episode. Number 20, Poker Knights, or Face Card Knights if you want to be particular about it. My name is still better. Royal Straight Slasher is a level 6 light warrior monster with 2400 attack and 1350 defense that can't be normal summoned or set, and must be special summoned with the card Royal Straight. If you have Queen's Knight, King's Knight, and Jack's Knight in your grave, you can send a monster of each level between 1 and 5 from your hand and or deck to the grave, and if you do, destroy all cards your opponent controls. And if this card is destroyed by battle, you can target up to 3 light warrior monsters in your grave and special summon them. Boo! Battle destruction floating, boo! Anyway, we do have a board wipe, which can lead to some pretty short games. We just need the levels to pull them off. Our poker suite already has the 4s and 5s covered though, and a variety of hand traps can fill out the rest. Valor for 1, Cypher Gear Gamma for 2, and any of the Ghost Girls for 3. So as long as you play a healthy amount of each, alongside any other leveled staples, this should actually be pretty easy to pull off, especially because Royal Straight will put all the knights in grave to activate that effect. So at that point, the floating effect is just gravy. It's truly going to be a royal pain to deal with. Royal Straight is a quick play spell card that sends a copy of Queen's Knight, King's Knight, and Jack's Knight from your hand or face-up monster zone to the grave, then special summons a monster from your hand, deck, extra deck, or grave that mentions all those cards. Now, because this can summon from the extra deck, this means it's a weird way to summon Arcana Knight Joker, but just go ahead and summon Royal Straight Slasher, you'll be better off. Though it can also summon cards like Imperial Bower, Joker's Knight, and Arcana Triumph Joker if the situation calls for it. It's a hefty cost to pay, but is capable of summoning some truly heinous monsters that'll get your opponent scared straight. Number 21, P.U.N.K. I owe this theme a debt of gratitude. Because they got emergency teleport off the list, I can claim I'm some kind of Yu-Gi-Oh! Oracle. They came out swinging from grand creators as a powerful engine archetype, and they've only gotten better if you'd believe it. One of their biggest advances is No P.U.N.K. Dear Note, a level 5 Earth Warrior monster with 2100 attack and 1800 defense, and you can reveal one other P.U.N.K. monster in your hand to special summon either this card or the revealed monster and send the other one to the grave. If this card is sent from the field to the grave, you can target a P.U.N.K. monster in your grave except a level 5 monster and special summon it, but you're not allowed to summon a copy of this card for the rest of the turn. Finally, a level 5 monster we can use on theme. Previously, our theme was relegated to only making level 11 synchros, but not anymore. Its revival effect is also extraordinary, getting you back either a level 3 tuner, which also gets you a search, or your level 8s to help make those level 11 synchros. This card is easily a noteworthy inclusion to the strategy. P.U.N.K Jam Dragon Drive is a level 8 Earth Psychic Synchro monster with 2700 attack and 2400 defense, requiring a Psychic Tuner monster and one or more non-tuners as material. If this card is Synchro summoned or special summoned by a P.U.N.K card's effect, you can pay 600 life points to take a level 3 Psychic monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the grave. And if your opponent activates a card or effect in response to the activation of your P.U.N.K card or effect while this card is in the grave, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card. So it doesn't negate, unfortunately, but it is a free summon of a big monster, which will in turn trigger its Search or Foolish Burial effect because it was technically summoned by a P.U.N.K card's effect, namely its own. This also makes it great synchro or link material, so it can go back to the grave to wait for that trigger again. Oh, and don't forget that this can also be revived by Deer Note, which will trigger the on-summon effect. So, when you play Punks, get ready to slam, cause you're welcome to the jam. P.U.N.K Jam Extreme Session is a field spell, and once per turn, you can banish a P.U.N.K card from your grave to special summon a P.U.N.K monster from your hand. And if a psychic monster you control paid life points to activate its effect, you can draw a card. And you can use this effect up to twice per turn. So on top of being what is ostensibly a double summon, it also adds card draw to your P.U.N.K effects that were already getting you some pretty good value. Heck, it's not even P.U.N.Ks, it triggers off of any psychic. This card looked at Brain Research Lab and said, hold my beer. This is probably the most compelling reason to play P.U.N.Ks at the moment, and on top of that, is the best reason yet to actually play Wagon. Truly, this card is a miracle worker. Number 22. Rebellion? This is a weird one that showed up right at the end of the year. Introducing Odd Eyes Rebellion Xyz Dragon, a rank 7 Dark Dragon Xyz monster with 3000 attack and 2500 defense with a scale of 4, requiring 2 level 7 Pendulum monsters as material. And like all Xyz Pendulum monsters, it has the clause where you can Pendulum summon it from your face-up extra deck if you can Pendulum summon its matching level, which is 7. So as a monster, it can't be used as Xyz material the turn it's Xyz summoned, and it can detach a material to target up to 2 monsters your opponent controls with 3000 or less attack and destroy them. If this card in the monster zone is destroyed, it can be placed in the Pendulum zone, and as a Pendulum spell during your main phase, you can special summon this card, then you can attach a dark monster from your grave to this card as material. Now, strangely enough, this is probably the most simple of the Pendulum Dimension Dragons. Usually this comes with a mountain of text for a wild effect, but this is basically a double pop with an easy revival to get back online each turn. My favorite part though is that it's a legit Xyz Dragon monster, unlike some of the other Rebellions. So it's a legit target for Phantom Knight's rank-up magic force. Now, those Dark Warriors aren't exactly hurting for removal, and if you need to OTK, you have Arc Rebellion for that. But if that's not an option, having repeatable removal on a 3000 body ain't half bad. Gotta say, I like this rebellious phase Odd Eyes has gotten into. Number 23, Rikka. The definitive strongest of the Secret Slayer archetypes. Sure, Adamancipators and Eldritch seem to be the decks to beat at the time, but do they have any first place YCSs? Yeah, that's what I thought. And a lot of that is due to some strong updates. First is Rikka Princess, a level 4 monster, and during your main phase, you can special summon this card from your hand, but while face up in the monster zone, you can't special summon monsters except plant monsters. And when your opponent activates a monster effect while you control a Rikka monster as a quick effect, you can shuffle this card from your hand or grave into the deck and tribute a plant monster to negate that effect. So it's a super free summon, since you can do it for free and its restrictions only apply while on the field, thus helping with your Xyz summons, and is a negate to help deal with interruptions or just gumming up your opponent's plays. But I don't know, the design feels off. I mean, it's pretty, don't get me wrong, but what about this looks like a plant? And I wouldn't be surprised if someone mistook this for Ice Barrier support, to be honest. Rikka Con is a field spell card, and if you control a Rikka monster, you can set a Rikka spell or trap card from your deck to your spell and trap zone. Also, you can't special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except plant monsters. But hey, what else is new? And once per turn, if you attribute a plant monster you control to activate a Rikka card or effect, you contribute any one face-up monster your opponent controls even though you don't control it. That's right, we have a themed Layer of Darkness! Once per turn, you get to use your opponent's face-up monsters to pay for your effects, and boy howdy does this turn things around! Imagine using Princess to negate an opponent's effect, tributing their monster as cost for it. Con even searches you cards that can be used with this. Glamour can make immediate usage of this to stock up on monsters, while Sheet and Tranquility can be used at quick effect speed to disrupt and revive your monsters respectively. Seriously, this card is all pros and no cons. Number 24, Runick. Oh great, I'm potentially going to get dired twice in this series. Let's get this done quick. Frecky, the Runick Fangs, is a level 5 Dark Beast fusion monster with 2000 attack and 0 defense, and when an attack is declared involving this card in the extra monster zone, you can banish the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. Neither player takes any battle damage from attacks involving this card, and if this card on the field is destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can target a Runick quick play spell in your grave and add it to your hand. It's odd that a deck that keeps skipping your battle phase has a monster with a battle trigger, but since it works on any battle involving it, that means your opponent is going to have to lose their top 2 cards if they want a chance to take this down. And because the attack has already been declared, you can go ahead and use any quick effects to remove that monster to keep Frecky safe. And if you do lose them, Frecky replaces the spell you used to summon them, so you can potentially just summon another to keep fanging in there. Number 25, Sky Striker. It's a manga now, folks, you're never going to hear the end of it. In fact, I think all these cards we're going to be talking about come from the manga in one way or another. Point of order, despite the names, all of these cards count as Sky Striker cards. Our first subject is Aileron, a level 1 wind machine monster, and during the main phase, as a quick effect, you can target a Sky Striker Ace monster you control and equip this card from your hand or field to it. A Sky Striker Ace equipped with this card gains 400 attack, and if this card on the field is destroyed, you can send a Sky Striker spell from your deck to the grave. Now, notably, Aileron is not treated as a Sky Striker Ace monster, so you're not able to link this into the most important monsters of your theme. What gets me is that it's a spell on the field, which is actually the last place you want it to be a spell. Activating Aileron counts as a monster effect, so it won't count towards multi-roll, and it's a monster in grave, so you're not going to be able to count it towards your bonus threshold. And 400 isn't exactly a huge boost, so it's situational at best. And the deck is doing just fine sending spells to grave with Hayate. It's a cute little creature, but it certainly doesn't cure what Aileron's ya. War Magus Akis is a level 5 fire machine monster with 2400 attack and 2000 defense, and you can discard a spell card to special summon this card from your hand. If any number of Link monsters you control would be destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can banish a spell from your grave instead. And if this card is destroyed by a battle or card effect and sent to the grave, you can target one of your banished Sky Striker spells and add it to your hand. Now that's kinda cool. You're gonna have a lot of excess spells in grave once your engine gets going, so having a way to spend them on protection for your ace monsters is clutch. The problem is that Akis needs to be in the field to use that effect, and that would be putting a monster in your main monster zone, in a theme that can't use its spells if you have monsters in the main monster zone. Sure, you can just pop it to recycle a Sky Striker spell. Heck, I'm sure you'll love that option after you lose a few to multi-roll, but it's gonna be hard to use Jamming Waves or Afterburner while you have a monster in the main monster zone. At best, this card can help you link climb to achieve better OTK potential, which I understand is one of the deck's weaknesses, but other than that, this card just drags. But I do like saying the name, Akis. Akis! Akis! Oh, I got the Akis! Oh, I gotta go kick their Akis! Wisdom Magus Himmel is a level 5 Earth Machine monster with 500 attack and 2500 defense that can also be special summoned from the hand by discarding a spell card. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets any number of Link monsters you control as a quick effect, you can banish 2 spells from your grave to negate that effect. And Himmel also gets you back a banished Sky Striker spell when destroyed by a battle or card effect and sent to the grave. Okay, this is marginally better. It keeps your strikers from getting targeted by something nasty, but it still has to be in the main monster zone to do that! Seriously, they couldn't have just, let these effects work from the hand? It would have been really good lore-wise, since the Magi are all meant to be support AIs or something like that. Keeping them in the hand would have been a cool way to show that they're supporting from long distance, rather than being on the battlefield. Needing them to be on the field didn't seem like a very wise decision. Love Magus Ciela is a level 6 water machine monster with 2200 attack and 1000 defense, and can also be special summoned by discarding a spell card, and also nets you a banished Sky Striker spell when destroyed by a battle or card effect and sent to the grave. However, out of all the Magi, this is the one that I feel is the most playable. See, by banishing a spell card from your grave, you give control of this card to your opponent. And if you do, special summon a Sky Striker Ace monster from your grave. So if you have a Ray, Rose, or any of your links in the grave, you can special Ciela, banish the spell you used to summon it, get back an Ace, and now you have access to your whole deck once again. And so long as the summoned Ciela was summoned in defense position, you can easily run over it and get back a Striker spell if you have one banished. Maybe even the one you banished to summon Ciela. And it still performs the usual function of the other Magi, insofar as acting as material. Heck, its level 6 status makes it uniquely suited to pair up with Bestials to make cool rank 6s. Gosh, it's good to see at least one of these are playable. I love it. Sky Striker Azalea is a Link 2 Dark Machine monster with 1500 attack, requiring any 2 light and or dark monsters as material and must be Link summoned, so Ray can't tag in here. You can also only special summon 1 copy of this card per turn, which is in line with the rest of the Striker links. If this card is special summoned, you can target a card on the field and destroy it, then if you have 3 or less spells in your grave, send this card to the grave. Once per turn at the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can banish a spell from your grave and destroy that opponent's monster. So in a strange twist, you need 4 spells in grave to avoid a punishment, but no matter what, you get the pop. And because their materials are generically light and dark, you could splash this in any deck running a suitable amount of those as a pseudo-nightmare monster. Heck, it's even better because it can also be a construct, auto-killing something in battle at the cost of banishing a spell. And most decks don't even recycle those, so you probably don't care. This actually might see more play in non-striker decks than actual strikers, since you have to use Ray or Rose as material. None of the elementally attributed Sky Striker cards are going to work here. Though I guess if we go back to the Bestials, it actually becomes a lot easier to summon. Look, this wouldn't be the first time I've underestimated Sky Strikers. I built my channel on underestimating Sky Strikers, so I wouldn't be surprised if I did so again. Number 26, Suship. Alright, good to see another item back on the menu, and it is delectable. Gunkan Suship Shari Red is a level 4 monster with 0 attack and 2000 defense, and it's treated as Gunkan Suship Shari while in the hand, grave, on the field, and most notably, while in the deck. In effect, that's pretty wild because the entire archetype revolves around this single normal monster. So having 3 more copies of it that counts as it basically everywhere is ridiculous. As for its effect, you can reveal one other Gunkan Suship Shari from your hand, which, might I remind you, can be base Shari or a copy of red, to special summon this card from your hand, then apply the following effect. Special summon a Gunkan monster from your deck, except a Gunkan Suship Shari, but negate its effects, if any, then special summon from your extra deck an Xyz monster that mentions that special summoned monster's name, using that monster and this card as material, and it's treated as an Xyz summon. Using this, you can even summon the level 5 Uni for an Xyz summon of a rank 5, since this effect forces the summon without regard to level. Neato tricks aside, this is patently absurd. Without using your normal summon, you get what amounts to any Suship from your extra deck, and you get all the bonus effects, because while Shari Red doesn't count as Shari while acting as Xyz material, it was acting that way when used as material, so you will get the draw effect. You can get Shirao to search a spell or trap while bolstering your stats, Uni to make a negation body while gaining the ability to attack directly, or Ikura for double attacks and removal. Shari Red is the best thing to happen to Suships, and I'm glad we all get to Shari in the spoils. Number 27, Synchron. It wasn't just heroes you had to update, you had to go ahead and do Synchrons too, huh? Well, we're probably going to be seeing this again once we reach Blackwing's Explained, but for now, let's cover all our bases with Assault Synchron. It's a level 2 Dark Machine Tuner monster with 700 attack and 0 defense. During your main phase, you can special summon this card from your hand, then take 700 points of damage. Also, you can't special summon monsters from the extra deck, except Synchro monsters, while this card is face-up on the field. If any number of face-up Dragon Synchro monsters you control are attributed or banished, except during the damage step, you can banish this card from your grave, then target one of those monsters and special summon it. Like Armed Neos and Rebellion Xyz Dragon before it, Assault Synchron mixes together vibes of 2 characters from one of the shows, and this time, it's Yusei and Crow Hogan's turn. The 700 points of self-burn damage comes from the crow part, since it, kinda works with Black-Winged Dragon, but the Grave effect works with various Stardust Dragons, as they tribute or banish themselves for their effects. But if you have Assault Synchron in Grave, you can just get them right back. Though, to be fair, this card could be used for almost any deck. You just take your 700 points of damage, and now you have a level 2 tuner on board. You can only Synchro out of the extra deck until you get it off the board, but if you're playing something like, I don't know, Sprite, then you can special summon them from your hand as usual, because it doesn't restrict those summons, then sync it away into something like a Herald of the Arclight before doing your normal plays. And bonus, you get a free Omni Negate out of it. You don't even have to get that high concept with it. You can just put it in any deck that would benefit from having a free level 2 tuner. Really, the sky's the limit, even if the damage is a bit of an assault on your senses. Final Cross is a quick play spell card that you can activate during one of your turns if any number of Synchro monsters have been sent to the grave. You target a Synchro monster you control, and it gains the ability to make a second attack during that turn's battle phase. Then, if you activated this card by targeting a Synchro monster with Warrior, Synchron, and/or Stardust in its original name, you can make it gain attack equal to the attack of a Synchro monster in your grave. Yowza, Final Cross is right. But with the right target, this can easily let one of your monsters close the game out immediately, especially because this is a double attack that doesn't need to be made on monsters. It does have a pretty situational activation window, but if you're the kind of deck that makes synchros that need other synchros as material, you'll find that you meet the activation condition while you do your normal stuff. So really, if your issue is that you're not closing out games fast enough, why not play this card? It's worth it to get that final word in. Number 28, Utopia! You know, at this point, sure, outdate all my big projects. At this point, the amount of people that show up in their comment sections when new things come out is just funny. Number 39, Utopia Rising is a rank 4 monster with 0 attack and 2000 defense, requiring generic material. If this card is special summoned, you can target a number Xyz monster in your grave, except a copy of itself, and special summon it in defense position. Then you can transfer this card's material to that monster. And if you Xyz summon, you can special summon this card from your grave, but banish it when it leaves the field. So if you're running a number-centric deck, this card balls. You get to resurrect a fallen number, and give it back material to use it to its full potential. Then later it can be revived on a different Xyz summon, perfect for helping you make Utopia Kaiser. Or, if you triggered that grave effect by making another copy of Utopia Rising, you can end up folding them into Numeron Dragon, who I hear is pretty powerful. And while the freshly summoned copy of Rising isn't able to get its twin out of the grave by itself, it can summon a big Xyz monster out of your grave to give Numeron Dragon some bite. Regardless of how you choose to use its power, this Utopia will undoubtedly raise the ceiling of your deck. Draco Utopian Aura is a counter trap card that can be activated if your opponent activates a monster effect on the field. You negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Then, you can apply the following effect. Banish a monster from your hand, and if you do, special summon the monster that was destroyed and sent to the grave by this effect to your field, but negate its effects. So it's kinda like having a Utopic Draco future, but you don't get the effect of the monster you take. So it's just kind of a body, which, depending on the circumstances, can save you or be really useful, as it can apply offensive pressure if it's big enough, and can be used as material. Only being able to work on field monsters is a bit limiting, but it is basically free. And if you use this on something like Rukalos or Kaleido Heart, they won't have time to revive them while this effect resolves, so that's kinda cool. The thing is though, despite being a Utopia card, there really isn't a way to search this card, so its name doesn't really mean much. But if they're gonna put the name in there, then by gumption I'm gonna cover it, because you never know when they're gonna make some support that does make it matter. It might be a bit of utopian thinking, but I don't mind. Number 29, Vaylantz. If ever there was a theme I was rooting for out of Tactical Masters, it was Vaylantz. The Link era finally made column management something players had to consider, but column movement was still something on the fringes that didn't really catapult anything into playability. Mech Knight Moveman notwithstanding. Did Vaylantz change that? I don't know, because the only two people I know who've ever understood this blasted deck are A, the editor of this episode, and B, someone who doesn't have a channel yet, so for now, you're dealing with me! First up, we have a brand new boss monster that lies betwixt the warring realms of this setting. Vaylantz of the Wireframe Abyss, Arctis 12, a level 12 Earth Fairy Fusion Pendulum monster with 3000 attack and defense with a scale of 12. As a monster, it requires 2 level 5 or higher Vaylantz monsters as material, but you don't fusion summon for it. Rather, while face down in the extra deck, you have to tribute those cards you control to summon Arctis. As a quick effect, you can switch the locations of 2 monsters in your main monster zone, or 2 monsters in your opponent's main monster zones. And if any number of cards in the monster zones move to another monster zone, Arctis can destroy a card on the field. And yes, it does not target. As a pendulum spell, it can either special summon itself to your main monster zone in its same column, or move a monster in your main monster zone to an adjacent horizontal monster zone. This card seems pretty dope, not gonna lie. It effectively, as a quick effect, triggers 2 of your Vaylantz monster's effects, and pops a card. Its pendulum effect is the same as the rest of the fusions, but notably has a large enough pendulum scale to allow for the pendulum summoning of your other fusions, so it's totally worth setting up a copy of this. Though you'll have to use a special effect to do so, as it doesn't have its own onboard way to scale itself. Time will tell if it's worth it to give up 2 high-level Vaylantz to get this online, but I'm sure all it'll take is the right frame of mind.
Now, as the Orbital Platform's resident Vaylantz player, I can vouch for the fact that, yes, trading in 2 higher level Vaylantz for Arctis the 12th is absolutely worth it. Because, don't forget, while it may not play like one, Vaylantz is a pendulum deck. So there's a very good chance that you'll be able to pendulum summon the monsters you tributed right back. And hey, if you manage to get one of the materials underneath the extra monster zone, you can cash that monster in for a Grand Duke, which is also a valid material for summoning Arctis. Then, if you get Viscount onto the board, you can immediately use Arctis' effect, swapping its own position with Viscount's. That'll trigger Viscount's move effect, loading Grand Duke into your scale. And after that, a complete scale is just one beyond the pendulum away. And here's another tip for you. If you're going first, use Arctis' effect to destroy your own field spell. This may sound stupid, but keep in mind that your opponent can use the effects of your field spells as well, but only if there's 2 field spells in play. So, by getting rid of your own field spell, you deny your opponent access to the remaining field spell's effect on their turn, while keeping them off of cards like Lightning Storm, Impermanence, and Evenly Matched. Plus, if you can deploy Mamonaka the Vaylantz United after doing this, you can rest assured that when you kick an opponent's monster into the back row, it's gonna stay there. Let's just say that I was screaming when this card was revealed for a very good reason.
Vaylantz Wars, the Place of Beginning, is a normal spell card that adds a Vaylantz field spell from your deck to your hand, then you can apply the following effect. Destroy a pendulum monster card you control, and if you do, add a Senate switch from your deck to your hand. And if this card is in your grave, except the turn it was sent there, you can banish this card to place a face-up Vaylantz pendulum monster from your extra deck to your pendulum zone. Great for enabling their self-summon effects, and also setting up those fusion Vaylantz for their wacky scales. And the on-activation effect is solid too. Your field spells are integral to how your deck functions, and while being able to add Senate Switch is a huge beam, I honestly kinda think it's a cool idea. Like, Vaylantz is some kind of game that uses figurines, right? And if it has you moving those pieces around the game board, well, if you look at the picture for Senate Switch, that might imply that this game is some kind of far-flung, modern descendant of those ancient games. Like how modern strategy games can draw their roots way back to old military games. Now, some of you might be wondering why I'm covering Place of Beginnings here, because it was released as part of Tactical Masters. Well, that's because I covered this set before the full list of cards was revealed. So for anyone wondering why it takes me so long to cover cards, this is why. So next time you're thinking, Nova hasn't done a lore update in a while, this is probably the reason why. So please let some good come from my woeful mistake. Vaylantz Wakening solo activation is a normal spell card that places a Vaylantz Pendulum monster from your deck to your Pendulum zone. Also, if a card is in a field zone, you can banish this card from your grave, then target a Vaylantz monster in your main monster zone, and move that target you control to an adjacent horizontal monster zone. Now, this is one of those cards that tells you how to play it right in the art. While you can use this to set up any of your Vaylantz in the Pendulum zone so they can summon themselves, Shinonome is your strongest play. It gets that priestess into rotation, and after you summon them, you can search out your field spell. Once that's set up, you fulfilled the requirements for Solo's Grave effect, letting you move Shinonome, which will in turn search you a monster. But if you don't need those searches and you already have an active field spell, this is basically a way to toolbox any of your main deck Vaylantz. Summoning conditions being met, of course, get their initial effect, then gives them a move to activate their secondary effect. It's even better with those big level 5s and ups, because you can summon them, move them one square over, then immediately tribute them to summon Genesis Grand Duke. Now, I'm no expert, but from what I can tell, this card solos easy. Number 30, Vendread. This has got to be one of my favorite zombie decks, maybe even my favorite ritual deck. Something about a theme that uses a monster type that's known for spitting out material like crazy and using them to easily fulfill ritual requirements is just awesome, though it's not without its problems. It has some unfortunate restrictions that try to make a sliding scale of power, like sure, you can just banish your materials or use them from the hand, but if you use the cards on the field, your Build-A-Boss gets particular kinds of effects. We'd see something similar with Libromancers actually, except it was far less strict with that bonus. Okay, this is already turning into Vendread 2 Revenge of the Dead, so I better get going before I get caught up in my own hype. Scar of the Vendread is a level 6 monster with 2300 attack and 0 defense. If this card is sent to the grave, you can add a Vendread spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. If any number of monsters on the field are attributed while this card is in your grave, except during the damage step, you can banish one other zombie monster from your grave to special summon this card. And if you do, while it's face up in the monster zone, you can't special summon monsters except Vendread ones. Not even zombies, huh? That's a shame. But the restriction isn't permanent and it doesn't cause Scar to get banished, so it'll trigger its search again if you haven't used it already that turn. And getting a hold of your spells and traps is crucial because we've got some good ones. You can fast track this into the grave via any number of means. We are zombies after all. You've got your typical Unizombie, mayhaps by way of Shiranui Solitaire, Foolish Burial, Samurai Skull if you have the normal summon. Heck, Revendread Evolution is a great way to get one of your Vendread Slayers on board while triggering Scar right out of your deck. So it's a searcher, lots of levels, and a free body. This card is so scary, it might turn Yu-Gi-Oh! Into a survival horror game all on its own. But that's not even their final form! Vendread Scavenger is a level 8 ritual monster with 2800 attack and 0 defense. During the main phase, as a quick effect, you can tribute one other zombie monster to have Scavenger gain attack equal to the tributed monster's original attack until the end of the turn. If you control Revendread Slayer and this card is in your grave, you can special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. If this card doesn't do anything fancy, it's really just here to end the game. It's big by itself, can get bigger by absorbing another zombie, and can get tacked on to any board that puts a copy of Revendread Slayer into the mix to put together that game-winning damage. Or, heck, to just punch over a big monster. Feeding Scar to this puts it at a whopping 5100 attack, which clears basically everything. Good to see the new support is really shooting for the stars! But my absolute favorite new card has got to be Ravenous Vendread, a ritual spell that special summons any Vendread monster from your hand, deck, or grave in face-down defense position, except Vendread Scavenger, then apply the following effect. Ritual summon any Vendread ritual monster from your hand or grave by tributing monsters you control, including the monster special summoned by this card, whose total levels equal or exceed the level of the ritual monster. Mwah! This is fantastic! It solves one of the big problems of the deck, namely needing to have the ritual material on board to get the bonus effect. Ravenous just picks it out of your deck and plops it onto the board, so whatever effect you need your ritual to have, this does it for you. It can also special summon Scar to get the Vendread Spell and Trap search, and bonus, this also mentions a Vendread ritual monster by name, so this is also searchable by pre-prep. Boy, I hope we get even more support, because I'm hungry for more. I'm ravenous for it, you might say. Number 31, Vernusylph. My favorite tech pick archetype. Any Earth attribute deck just gets to use this with almost no strings attached. It does kinda limit your extra deck options, but for the ability to make your deck infinitely more consistent and resilient, hard to argue with that. Just ignore the fact that your opponent has Ash Blossom. Especially because we have a new base Vernusylph to add to the team. Misting Seedlings is a level 3 monster with 400 attack and 800 defense, and while on the field, all monsters on the field lose 600 attack, except Vernusylphs. You can discard this card and another monster or Vernusylph card to apply the usual no activating non-Earth monster effects for the rest of the turn restriction, and also adds an Earth Fairy monster from your deck to your hand except a copy of itself. Then you can special summon an Earth monster from your grave, that part being the usual Vernusylph effect. Now, the on-field effect probably won't interest you if you're not playing Corolla, which would prevent your Earth monsters from being affected by the attack drop because they'll be treated as Vernusylphs, but depending on the deck, this card is outstanding. Of course, it can search your other Vernusylphs to get the particular utility effect you want, but it can also search the Ishizu fairies. The problem is that those get splashed into a lot of decks that aren't exactly mono-earth friendly, namely tiers. Though a Naturia deck running the Ishizu fairies could definitely benefit from this. Another deck that can really benefit from this is Gem Knights, as seedlings can search quartz, which can in turn get you Scatter Fusion. You also have no shortage of Earth monsters to work with, so go nuts in reviving whatever you want. You're just gonna have to be okay with losing out on Crystal Rose for the rest of the turn. But the main deck that can run this card to the fullest is Madolche, baby! It searches both Angeli and Petting Sacyr, both of which being incredible starters and extenders, so Seedlings effectively being a wild card for either of them, while reviving any Madolche that ends up in your grave is fantastic, a real treat. You're gonna be able to do so much silly stuff, and all your opponent's gonna be able to say is, what the duck? Vera, the Vernusylph Goddess, is a level 8 Earth Fairy monster with 2400 attack and 3000 defense that works, very differently from the rest of the team, cause they're the big boss. Once per turn, when a monster effect activated by your opponent resolves, if you control 5 or more Earth monsters, you can negate that effect, and if you do, destroy that card. It can target a face-up monster your opponent controls and take control of it, and if you do, it becomes Earth Attribute, and during your opponent's turn, as a quick effect, you can target an Earth monster in your grave and special summon it. So, let me pare this down. Vera has negation that doesn't activate, that can choose to just resolve while the Chainlink is resolving, which dodges hard activation negation. It does require you to have a very wide field, but Vera's last effect can help with this by being a monster reborn of any Earth. And its second effect is just Change of Heart that does not wear off, you get to keep it, and it becomes Earth to help with that negation. I'm howling. It's literally Change of Earth. Combine this with how good of a summon it is off of the Vernusylph revival effects, and you've got a boss that can be integrated in almost any Earth deck alongside your Vernusylphs, and it wouldn't be out of place. Vera might be an Earth attribute monster, but to me, they're simply divine. Vernusylph in Full Bloom is a field spell card that gives a 1000 attack boost to all monsters you control, provided you control 5 or more Earth monsters. While this card is on the field, you can banish a copy of Vernusylph and the Flower Buds from your hand or grave to special summon a Vera the Vernusylph Goddess from your deck. And if any number of Vernusylph monsters are special summoned from your grave, except during the damage step, you can target a monster on the field or in either grave and return it to the hand. This is a bit of a miss for me. While I think the 5+ Earth requirement for the negate on Vera is reasonable, Vera comes with a lot of ways to summon a lot of Earth monsters. Full Bloom does not. It comes with a way to put Vera on the field, sure, but it requires you to run Flower Buds, and I still don't have a strong opinion on that card. I mean, you could just discard this off your Vernusylph effects to fast track that effect, but then you're running a really bad trap card, and that's like a super brick. That means this card's effectiveness boils down to its last effect. And honestly, unless you're playing pure Vernusylphs, the last thing I want to be summoning with the Vernusylph Revival is other Vernusylphs. So we've got a field spell that works pretty well if you're running a pure Vernusylph deck, and can actually turn Vera into a combat phase nightmare with not only that 1000 boost, but all the combat bonuses you can stack onto them with your smaller Vernusylphs, but don't expect other decks to really take full advantage of this. And, unless I've somehow missed something, that's it! All the new cards from Archetypes I've covered from January to December 2022. But there were a lot of cards and releases out there, and I'm just one guy, so now's your chance to catch Big YouTube Man in a bind. If I missed anything, or if you felt any of my takes were particularly egregious, go ahead and let me know in the comments. In fact, if I messed up enough, I might have to make a little follow-up. And if you enjoyed, I'd super appreciate it if you'd all press those YouTube buttons, the liking, the subscribing, all that jazz. We're currently working towards getting to 50k subs for Akiza Explained, but my big goal for this year is to hit 75k, cause that's when we're doing Black Wings Explained, and I cannot wait to get into that. And if you want to go that extra mile, sharing this video with someone you know really makes my day, and who knows, you might even help them out in the process. This episode was brought to you by my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commander, Julius Sneezer, Nebula Navigator's 3rd Dynasty, Adam Zajdel, Avi Chali, Kane Senpai, Cameron Berg, Chibi Gohan, Eric, Frankie, Genesis Yu-Gi-Oh!, Gloomba331, Great Big Pillock, Harry the Ominous Benefactor, Howling Zangetsu, Ironic, John Manji, Julius Sneezer, Larakia, Manacharge, Marluxia as a Girl, Meteornus, Michael Madsen, Mighty Action X, Panther J, Rebel King Lucifer, Rem T Bright, RJ the Jank Monarch, Ruxith Sarani, Sophie, apparently, the Charizard Flame, the Fresh Prince of Conair, the Wizard Moose and Xander Wolfensberger, Cosmic Crusaders Ariel Kersey, Bear Shark Depot Studios, Chaz Ghost, Chris Kessler, Corbinisms, Emily, Eva Padilla, Herbal D, Jesus Garcia, Kale the Dragon, Carp, King Scarlet Yu-Gi-Oh!, Lord Whoop-De-Doo, Manga Pages, Marion James C. Picata, Matt Simmons, Neo Trinity 7, Nitromo, Sarah Lo Sulci, Shaquille Solomon, Shooting Star 3300, Star-Lord 777, Super Purd, Tucker Ordorn and the Legendary Raven, as well as the wonderful Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. I'm only able to continue doing this thanks to the support of these lovely people, so if you'd like to be a part of these credits, help me in my journey to cover all of Yu-Gi-Oh's archetypes, and get all my videos just a little bit early, please check out my YouTube membership or Patreon links in the description to see if I have anything you'd like on offer. Once again, make sure to check out part 1 of this 2022 roundup if you haven't seen it already, and if any of these archetypes piqued your interest, make sure to check out this playlist of all those videos so you can get caught up on what these decks do. And if you want to see two Yu-Gi-Tubers going at it, check out Noah Jenk and I's latest series Progression Polls, where your voice shapes the format. Thank you all so much for watching for as long as you've had, and I'm looking forward to an outstanding 2023. I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.